So, as I was saying, it's important to know what the goals in the relationship are. It's important that it is clearly stated. It's important from the beginning of the relationship that boundaries are also stated. If you're looking to do relationship the godly way, you must also know what your boundaries are. What are the things that you can never do? What are the things that are your deal breakers? We must also know that. So you meet someone, the person's lifestyle doesn't fit into what you want, and you're still continuing with the relationship. What use is that relationship to you? I shared a post about relationships at one point, and someone asked me a question. The person said to me that, is it okay to still be in touch with your ex, when I was saying that we should never burn bridges? And I said to the person that the person is an ex for a reason, right? What was the reason for the breakup? There's a reason why the person became an ex. And of all the people in the world, there's so many people. I'm one of those people that I don't subscribe to being in touch with exes. It's my personal opinion. I might be I don't that's how I see these things. But you might have a different opinion. But what I always say is, of what use is it, going to stir dangerous waters, where that emotions are still involved. If sex was involved in the relationship, is also a factor. So what are you doing with that person? And that's where it brings to the fore what the scripture says. In relationships, there are guidelines in the scripture as to how relationships are to be done, right? And God says that sex, the marriage bed, sex shouldn't be part of the picture until marriage has been consummated. The marriage bed must be left undefiled. And the reason for that is that it makes it easy for you to make clear decisions as to what works in the relationship, what is working, what is not working, when it's time to call it quits. And so I called it quits in the relationship. After I said that to my husband, my then boyfriend, I didn't see much improvement, and I thought that it was time to move on. And so I stopped calling him. And he too didn't reach out to me until after he saw that I didn't reach out to him after 2 weeks. And then he called, and it was just looking like he wasn't taking me seriously. But after I saw that he tried to come visit me a number of times, I stood him up on those dates. And at that point, to be honest, I wasn't doing it because I wanted him to miss me or I wanted him to come look for me. But I just knew that if you weren't going to value me or show me that I was valuable in the relationship, then there's no point. What are we doing? If someone doesn't place value on you while you're dating, chances that they will not respect you when you're married is also higher, And when you show the person that this is what you stand for, these are your standards, and you're not going to compromise or you're not going to be treated a certain kind of way, in the marriage, it's easy for those things also to translate in your relationship. Another advice I have to give to people is, what is God saying to you in that relationship? And I was sure that I heard God concerning that relationship. But then when I saw that things were not falling into place, I think that it's important that at some point you separate so that everyone in the relationship can also reflect. Where you don't separate and you keep forcing things to happen, even if marriage goes on after that, marriage is not the end in itself. Marriage is just a means to an end, And so you get married and those same feelings of unfulfillment will still come up. Those same feelings of unfulfillment will still continue. So how do you now deal with that, where you have a partner where the partner is an absentee partner, you're the one doing all the hard work in the relationship, So that's happened in the relationship. So the beautiful story you see today is as a result of all of the work that had to happen in the relationship. And so that breakup was for a period of 3 months. After the 3 months, all of a sudden, he was reaching out to me, reaching out to my family members, reaching out to my friends to see how we can come back together. But at that point, I'd moved on, and there were other suitors, around at that time. But I just didn't have a release to also go into a relationship, not because I was missing him, but I just felt that it wasn't time. And I didn't see it for everybody I met as well. I was also judging them by his own standards, and by his own standards, I mean my husband's standards, And then I got to a point where I just said to God that even though I knew that I was done with him, 3 months after, I just felt my heart begin to melt. And one day I felt a nudge to call him. And I said I was too proud to, my ego wouldn't let me call him. Like, how can I break up with somebody and I'll now be the one calling him? Yes, he had been trying to reach me, but when he saw that I wasn't reaching out again, he stopped. He sent me messages to say, oh, he had been fasting and this is the scripture God gave to him. My cousin called me, his cousin called me, our friends tried to mediate, but it didn't work. And then one day, I told God, I said, if it was him, melt my heart. And so my heart melted one day, and that's how I started trying to reach out to. No, I didn't try to reach out to him. I think what happened was I told God, I said, if it's your will, let him reach out to me again, and then so let's see what happens after that. And so one day, his very good friend, calls me on the phone and says, oh, I'm in Ibadan. I was in Ibadan at the time. I hadn't started working. I just finished NYSC. I'm in Ibadan and I would like to see you. Where can we meet? Tell me where to meet you and everything. A part of me, wanted it to be my husband that would come with him. At the same time, as the hard girl I was forming, I was still saying that let him not come. If he comes, I will not talk to him and all of that. And so that's how I went to see his friend, and I was looking around. I said the part of me was missing him. I was looking around the restaurant. It was at Tantalizers at Ring Road. I was looking around, hoping to see if he would be there. He wasn't there. And so we had a conversation, his friend and I. He asked me what the problem was. I told him, what happened, and I told him I didn't feel valued anymore, and I felt that he had become distracted by another babe. And so if someone else was in the picture, it might as well go and marry that person. And all. And his friend said to me that my husband hadn't been the same since we broke up. Long story short, and he said, okay, I should excuse him. After we had like a long conversation of about an hour, he took time off. He said he wanted to go to the bathroom at Tantalizer. So he went, I was seated. And then at the time, I now started smelling my husband's perfume. My husband used to use 212 Sexy. Was it 212 Men at the time? But it was 212 Sha. And so he was walking towards me. Even though I was sitting, I was backing the smell, but I could smell it, and I was hoping he was the one. And so before I could turn, he covered my eyes with his hands, and then of course I smelled it. I knew it was him. I turned around. I was happy to see him. I gave him a hug. My daughter is here. She's laughing. I gave him a hug. His friend came and said, okay, you guys, make up, and then he excused himself. And so that's how we resolved that issue, and our relationship became better after that. A few months after that, I started working in Lagos, and so we got to see more often and got to talk, and so we got engaged on the day I started working. On the day I started work, okay, no, it wasn't that same day. I started work 3 days before my birthday. And so on my birthday, my husband proposed to me at Native Restaurants in VI off Idejo. And that's the story. He proposed to me on the 6th of October in 2011. And we got married on the 10th of November 2012. And so that's the story so far. Thank you for watching.